Welcome to the Underground, the Steel City Underground, the black and gold standard for Pittsburgh Steelers coverage. Now, here's your host, Terry Fletcher.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Steel City Underground podcast. My name is Terry Fletcher. This is the What the Football, or WTF, weekly segment, and this week is week 11, and boy, do we have a lot to go over. So the Steelers, as you know, we are 10-0 now, and we have a lot to celebrate. But again, we're going to get those haters that say, well, you played a 1-8 team. Well, it did start off a little slow, but the Jags definitely went up in their only successful drive, really, 3-0. And then as we got the ball, they had a failed onside kick with their 3-0 lead as we got our first possession. But we read it. Oh my gosh. It set the tone for the game because we got the ball at the 50 and we were off and running. So it was just interesting that they tried that right off the bat. But when you're a 1-8 team, you're like, WTF, might as well. So a couple of highlights from the game that gave us pause in a good and a not so good way. But the WTF for Chase Claypool, he is now 10 touchdowns, first rookie in the Super Bowl era to reach 10 touchdowns in 10 games, and we are just so grateful to have him on our team. So that was awesome. And one of his touchdown celebrations was just amazing because it was him with a circle of the wide receiver core, including the tight end, Eric Ebron, and they did a birthday song for Juju. So our birthday boy got to blow out a candle. Deontay Johnson, okay, that guy was targeted, it seemed like, every minute of the game. Ben was always looking for him. 16 catches, 111 yards, and he is really becoming a force. And so for those people out there that didn't really give him a shot, because he does give you a sense to pause, especially when he was on the kick return as far as not protecting the ball. But he's gotten a lot better just as one of our wideouts. And just referencing again our birthday boy Juju, one of our WTF moments was like, oh no, he stepped on a yellow flag, one of the penalty flags, and he immediately winced and pulled up his foot. And so he hurt his toe, he said. Just so you know, on the yellow flags, they have a weight on there. So when you step on it, it's kind of like stepping on one of your kids' Legos. It smarts. It definitely hurts. And so a WTF moment there, but he said he'll be fine. Also, we had one with Joe Hayden where he tweaked a knee. He came off and we're like, oh no. And I don't know about how many of you kept thinking, where's Joe? Where's Joe? And then he was back in the game. So bumps and bruises, as Mike Tomlin likes to call it. So that was good. But we did have our backup since we have a tight end situation going on. So we had Gentry in there. He definitely had a significant knee injury, they said, so he got pulled off. So all we had was Eric Ebron. But we have heard that Vance McDonald is coming off of protocol this week, and so he will be back in, hopefully practicing on Tuesday, according to our news report. So that's a great moment as far as what the football. But our defense, they were amazing. So we had 4 interceptions, 2 from who do you think? Yes, we're always like, Minka is a ball hawk. Wherever that ball is where he is. And then also Edmonds, he had 2 as well. So maybe they'll split the, AFC Defensive Player of the Week. That would be great. I think my biggest WTF moment, even though we won fair and square. I mean, it was definitely a blowout at 27-3. But Ben's ill-advised throw to the end zone for an interception just at the end of the first half, that it cost us 3 points because we were in field goal range. But he said on his post-presser that was on him. And all I'm going to say is, yes, Ben, it was on you, because we all said, what the football was that? And so all we have to say is be better. It's, teams are going to be better as we continue to move in the season. And let's face it, we need to continue to realize, as Coach Tomlin has said, everybody comes to beat us. If you're in the National Football League, regardless of your score and regardless of where you're at as far as your record, you still have to be ready for them. So hopefully he'll work that out. Now, the Browns, here is a WTF moment. So they beat the Eagles, who truly suck right now. But they beat the Eagles, and they basically now are in second place in the AFC North because the Ravens also lost. And I'll get to that in a minute. But here's what's really kind of interesting about that. With the Cowboys win, and they won, and a Washington win, they won, yes. all NFC East teams are competing for first place with only 3 wins. How would it be to be in that kind of division? But because the Eagles have a tie, even though they're so terrible and they've lost the last couple of games, they're still in first place. So that is 3-7-1. And that's what launched Cleveland into second place. But Carson Wentz, he's had 15 turnovers. What's the difference when you have that many in 11 games? And that, Doug Peterson said he's not going to bench him, which I think is wrong, but he needs to regroup because he is not the player that brought them the Super Bowl 3 years ago. So one of the what the football moments, which is really sad to me, and that is for Joe Burrow of Cincinnati, the quarterback, first-round draft pick this year. Prayers out to him. He tore his ACL, and he's now out for the year. And it's just so sad to see that. He's a good guy, but he definitely is going to be, obviously has to be replaced, so we feel bad for that. But here's a WTF moment. Cincinnati is 0-8-1 on the road in their last 19 games, according to NFL.com. So talk about how it has got to be painful to be a Cincinnati fan right now. But we definitely have prayers out to Joe Burrow. Now let's just get to the Ravens, since I'm sticking with right now in the AFC North. Ravens lost at home. They lost to the Titans, which are also an AFC team. And then Lamar Jackson, in his usual, it's everybody's fault but mine, he whined that and I'll quote, he said, "It feels like everyone wants us to lose." Well, first of all, dude, you're at home. So stop whining. Are you talking about your fans? What are you talking about? The media? Stop listening. You need to go out there and win, and don't worry about what everyone else thinks, if that's who you are. But right now, we don't know who they are. They're coming to Pittsburgh soon, and more on that in a minute. So Atlanta lost to New Orleans with Tyson Hill at quarterback for New Orleans, since you've heard Drew Brees has 17 rib fractures on either side. And so the WTF moment for me is Matt Ryan. They paid him $100 million, but he was sacked 8 times in the game. So even though I don't think he's playing his best, it's really hard to blame a quarterback that isn't protected. Just going off that. So for the coaches there that are trying to figure out their defense on that, seriously, WTF are you doing to your quarterback? Green Bay, so we know everyone wants to anoint Aaron Rodgers as the second coming every week, but they actually lost to the Colts 35-31 with a fumble from Valdez-Scantling, 4 turnovers. So both teams are 7-3, but here's what still surprises me. There's little talk about this game where, and I just thought this was interesting, that Aaron Rodgers and the Packers using the spike to give away downs at the end of the regulation. You had plenty of time. It cost them another play to potentially win the game. And then they went and lost in overtime. So talk about, they always talk about, for example, Alex Smith or certain quarterbacks as being managers. And it's game managers. And I thought Aaron Rodgers did a terrible job of managing that game. But the other thing that really surprised me, and we'll get into this, what the football COVID. I mean, Captain COVID is everywhere right now. But they had their players who were making touchdown celebrations. They were doing the Lambeau Leap in Indianapolis with fans that were right up to the edge, slapping players on their backs, halfway masks on. Some didn't have them on, just had them around their chin. And then the players were high-fiving them, and the fans didn't have gloves on. So why is this allowed in some stadiums, but some stadiums don't even have fans? If we're going to follow protocols, let's follow them. Right now, we're seeing some spikes even in the NFL where games have had to be moved. So that's a shout-out to the Colts. Knock that off. That's a WTF moment for sure. The Broncos beat Miami 20-13, and Ryan Fitzpatrick had to come in for the rookie Tua, and I just thought it was interesting that they did this because, Tua Tagovailoa, he's been such a good player. He's been winning games like crazy. But Ryan Fitzpatrick, even when he entered the fourth quarter, he led Miami from the 1-yard line to the Denver 15, and then he tried to, tie the score late. But their safety on the Broncos side, they basically jumped in front of a telegraphed Fitzpatrick pass for Devontae Parker. And basically it was an interception that sealed the game for the other side. So I just think that you have to be very careful because Brian Flores said it was not related to his foot injury that has been plaguing him through the first part of the season. It was actually performance related. Talk about shaking a confidence of a quarterback if he feels that if he's not perfect, that he's going to be pulled every time, and even especially a rookie who's been doing a great job. So moving forward, I would be kind of like, WTF, Coach Flores, what are you doing? That was really weird to me. Detroit lost in a shutout 20-0 to Carolina. And I don't know if it's Matthew Stafford's fault, but all I can say is that Matt Patricia could be out of a job soon because they are not getting what they want out of that team. The Texans, so they but beat New England. And anytime anybody beats New England, regardless of who the new quarterback is, it's a happy day. And J.J. Watt being happy versus frustrated is always a good day. I love the Watt family, so that was definitely a moment for them. The Jets, the poor Jets. So they're now 0-10. They lost to the Chargers 34-28, but they did score 28 points. So I guess there's some light there at the end of the tunnel, but their quarterback right now is Joe Flacco. Go figure. And all I can see is Le'Veon Bell on the bench and occasionally getting in the game at Kansas City thinking, thank God I'm not there anymore, because the Jets 0-10, they've now been officially eliminated from the playoffs, if anybody had to tell you that. But that's their WTF. And Gase still has a job. Not really sure what's going on there. But here is the Sunday night game. So we had the Kansas City beat the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, the score was 35-31. And for those of you that got to watch it, my WTF is, where is the defense? There was no turnovers. There were scores on both sides. There was a couple of punts, but other than that, they were both scoring almost on every drive, especially at the beginning. And, they have a minute and a half and they give it back to Pat Mahomes at the end, which is too much time for him. And then he figured out how to find a wide open Kelsey. I mean, they just ran down the field and wide open in the end zone for the win. So it was a really bizarre game to me. And for me, one of the WTFs is there's no fans in Vegas with all the money that was spent that went into that. And the announcers were saying, Chris Collinsworth and Al was basically saying that Mark Davis said either everyone gets to come or no one. He hasn't even visited his own stadium. I'm like, dude, WTF, don't be such a baby. Go visit your stadium. I mean, I understand the protocols are awful, but the other WTF, if you get a chance to troll Twitter, go look at the face that Derek Carr made on his, that was captured on everybody's Twitter. He had this face. We look up and we're watching this. We're like, oh my gosh, it truly looked like Lucifer on the anger that he had on that game. And it was actually kind of like, whoa, you know what? And it's also funny because he is a very vocal, religious man, so Christian man. So to see that on his face as he's looking up, you're like, yikes, dude. And then one of the things that to me is kind of funny in a WTF way is that their calls, we're used to Ben Roethlisberger where he has the same call every time. And in the huddle, he tells them what he's going to do. Well, for the Raiders, they call out things like James Harden, Chris Mullins, so basketball references, McDonald's, they call out these really funny references, and that's their play calling. And with no fans in the stadium, we can hear everything. So to me, it's just funny to hear what they're doing, and the announcers say the same thing. So here is we're looking for the future, and here is a really big WTF. So the Ravens, as I mentioned, come to Heinz Field for Thanksgiving game. We're the late game on Thursday. But due to COVID, this was announced today, and positives, they announced that they have to shut down their facility in Baltimore. And so to me, okay, so I'm just going to put it out there. Excuse not to play or excuse for when they lose. I'm not saying that they're doing that. All I'm saying is that after a really brutal loss and basically after, the things that Lamar says, it's kind of interesting timing. So let's just say timing is everything. We do hope that nobody is contacted. That's a player that has that contact. They're doing contact tracing right now. And I'd be very cautious for them coming into Heinz Field because obviously we want to keep our players safe as well. So we'll see what happens with all that. But definitely Captain COVID is a big WTF for, many many players and personnel in the league. So we'll see what happens. All right, everyone, have a safe holiday. Have a great week. And we'll talk to you next week on the Steel City Underground WTF podcast.
We would like to thank you for listening and remind our listeners to follow us on social media and our website, www.steelcityunderground.com.